everyone. It's Mike here with the Impossible Puzzles Show. It's episode 97, good Lord, and I'm joined by Andrew Maxwell. Andrew, tell us all about yourself.
Hi, well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's great to be involved. I kind of think that I listen to so many podcasts. I would like to be more involved in offering them, sharing some ideas. I have the moniker called the Innovation Doctor, which I think is legitimate because I have a PhD in innovation. So I think I'm allowed to do that. But I work in the field of entrepreneurship, innovation, technology, AI, and how they all come together and are changing the world much faster than I think most people think. And particularly look at, I'm going to say, things from a behavioral point of view, how people react to these things or take advantage of these things or work in these things. So very excited to be here and happy to share any thoughts, insights I have. I hope they're provocative, because if they're not, then I failed.
Amazing. We are off to a delicious start here. And for those who have not researched you or hunted you down or cyberstalked you on LinkedIn, like I might have had done previously, how would you introduce yourself to the world?
That's a really good question. I think as you get older, you have more things to add, but then you realize you've been on a journey. So I think the best thing to do is to say, I'm an engineer, electrical because I thought when I was doing my engineering that computers were somehow going to be important. So I did, and by the time, I'm so old that computers were part of electrical engineering when I did. Electrical engineer with an MBA from London Business School, and been passionate about tech, about entrepreneurship, and about innovation, kind of followed that career in Belgium, Canada, the UK, US, now obviously in Canada, in Toronto. I was involved in a number of large technology companies, usually launching a new division or new operation. Then I got involved in my own startups, joined U of T, Tech Transfer Office, University of Toronto Tech Transfer Office, and started the incubator there, so moving from licensing to ventures. And first of all, surrounded by a lot of very smart people, and surrounded by a whole bunch of people who had no idea what this was. They didn't understand what innovation was, they didn't understand entrepreneurship, they didn't understand how universities should work with industry. By the way, most of them still don't. When you're with smart people, you kind of go, oh, what should I do about this? And I decided to go back to school and do a PhD, which I did at Waterloo in management of technology. The rest is history. So now I study all of the things related to technology innovation. If people ask me, as an engineer with an MBA, entrepreneur, what my field is, I would say behavioral economics.
Fascinating.
Which is how people make decisions under uncertainty. And I think that is at the heart of all of these things. And I think it's the lack of understanding of that gets us into a lot of trouble.
So interesting, and unpacking some of this wondrous career that continues to go at a the speed of light, if we could say. What is innovation, in your opinion?
Innovation is doing new things that add value.
And how does that fit into the world of, let's call it, technology patents or licensing?
Well, I think two things. The first one's not going to surprise you. As an engineer, we can we create new technologies to do things that you previously couldn't do, or to solve really important problems. And so technology is an instrument, a tool, a way forward that allows us to do things that we couldn't do before. And because we're doing things we couldn't do before, that's inherently innovation. Getting people to use the technologies, is embedded in the word innovation. If no one's using it, it's not innovation, it's invention.
That's
And
right.
so the interest is, how do you do new things that people use? And in my space, because I'm definitely involved on the technology side, how do you develop, deploy technologies to do useful things for people? And I think that's the big issue. And I think if you get stuck on things like entrepreneurship or patents, or you're asking the wrong questions, because that's the how, not the what.
Yes, that's the how. That's just the how. How. And how is it that you're a professor and so deeply involved in innovation? Because aren't those, isn't academia a little bit removed from frontier innovation?
I'm disappointed you said that.
Teach me, professor, in my
because
ignorance.
because
Teach me.
because to me that's where it should be. I mean, where else would you do it? I don't think you should do it in a company, because your company is motivated by profit.
Yes.
Universities are motivated by doing new things. They're motivated by education, and if you want people to develop new things and use new things, you have to educate them. They're not going to do it without changing how they think. I think the more interesting question is, why am I in an engineering school, not a business school? And that's a much more profound question. Most people, so there are very few people that have the background I have, from the research, the publications, the venture side, that have that whole combination. But the few that do usually are entrepreneurship professors in business schools.
Yes.
And the minute that you do that, I think you distort the innovation to be focused on profit, not on impact. Engineers, I think, are focused on impact. So
Yes.
if you ask an engineer what they do, we solve problems. How do you choose which problems to solve? Well, let's solve important ones. Let's think about the consequences of solving those problems. I think if you ask the same question in a business school, it would be, we make money, which may not actually be the same thing. And I'm not saying that you should only do one or the other. You make choices. I made my choice.
Fascinating. And do you were doing startups before startups became cool, before it became a thing where it's like, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I can't spend time with my family because I'm writing code, or I'm setting up
So,
the YouTube channel. You're talking like
so it's
old school, early day startups.
so I think I think you're right. Startups have become fashionable. They weren't previously. It's interesting to think about that. I mean, if we actually look at the history of entrepreneurial founders, I would say that 90% of them started a business when they were in high school. I certainly did. So I think you'll see that there is this kind of entrepreneurial spirit that is like, it's, the nature versus nurture argument. It's actually embedded in people. You cannot make people entrepreneurial that are not. But there is not a 1-0, either entrepreneur or not. It's a scale. It's like a standard distribution. So I think the first thing is, yeah, I've been entrepreneurial forever. Richard Branson, I think I'm right. He started reselling garbage bags in high school or something. I mean, there's lots of stories of people that evolved their businesses. Virtually every entrepreneur ends up in a business which is not what they expected to be in to start with.
Yes, tell me about
so
that.
I think that is true. I think that there are a couple of things that echo your comment, which is, it's fashionable to be an entrepreneur now. I remember, and you may not know this, but I've been very involved in Dragon's Den. 20th year in Canada this year. I was involved in the first 4 seasons. But
how were you involved? Sorry to how I didn't know.
I'll come back to that.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
But the economics editor for the BBC, because it was on the UK before, right? He said, used to be that kids, when they grew up in England, of course, they either wanted to be a rock star or a football player. Now they want to be an entrepreneur. And Dragon's Den, he says, in the UK changed that. I think it has, elsewhere as well. It's made it more mainstream. I think that's a very superficial analysis, but I think it's true. I think that what's happened in is that a lot of the infrastructure, culture, support that you need to be an entrepreneur is now available that wasn't before. So, I'm not going to cite names of people because I might get the wrong person saying the wrong thing, but a number of people that have influenced me have talked about the culture, about the financial institutions, about the receptors, about people's willingness to buy from an entrepreneur. I mean, if we didn't have the internet, we wouldn't have a bunch of entrepreneurs. The founder of Shopify talks about every day, I think it's every 90 seconds, he says, somebody starts selling something new on Shopify. Pretty cool, right? And so the fact that he recognizes that and embraces that, I mean, that's the recognition of entrepreneurship. So my role in Dragon's Den was very complex, simple, whatever. CBC were evaluating whether they should bring Dragon's Den to Canada. At the time, it had been run, I think, a little bit in Australia, but successfully in the UK. Originally, it's a Japanese show, so called Tigers of Money. Different format structure, but the basic BBC structure, owned by Sony, they offered to CBC, and so they called me because I did work at this is when I was doing my PhD at Waterloo, and I did work at the Canadian Innovation Centre, and they said, do you think we could do something like this in Canada? Would it be possible? And I said, sure. And so my job was find entrepreneurs, before it existed as a show, find entrepreneurs, choose the ones that would come on the show, and prepare them to get on the show. And I did that for the first 4 seasons. And I was in the studio for all 4 seasons. I met lots of really interesting people who are now quite successful. But as part of that, I got permission to I did interviews with everybody on the show, every participant, every dragon. I got the recordings of every show, and a whole bunch of other things as well. And I actually used that in my PhD, some of that in my PhD, to actually understand the investment decision-making process.
This PhD that you have put together at Waterloo, what is your findings of investing in entrepreneurs? What is the secret wisdom as I enjoy my lunch?
So I would be spoiling it if I didn't say, well, read the PhD because it's online.
The link will be in the description below, everyone.
And we've written like summary chapters. I think, let me give you 2 insights. And maybe that will be a taster. The first is, investors enter the den with the purpose of getting rid of entrepreneurs as fast as possible.
Yeah.
That's their first view. Their view is, if I can find a reason to get this person out and stop wasting my time, that's what I want to do. It's a process that's called elimination by aspect. It's grounded in behavioral economics. Big surprise, I told you that. And it helps people understand the process. So they're not there to help. They're not there to find all the good things you're doing. They're there to find the weaknesses. And specifically the fundamental weaknesses that they feel that you can't address. And in most cases, they don't have time to address. Not that they couldn't address, but they don't have time because they've got a portfolio, they've got, so they're not going to choose an investment that's going to take lots of their time and resources when there's others there that they can spend less time on. So that's one interesting thing about the investor. Perhaps the biggest surprise that I got, which for anyone who's in this space is going to say, duh, of course, Maxwell, that's the case, but no one had written about it before I did, was the importance of trust. So the investor has to trust the entrepreneur, and the entrepreneur has to trust the investor, because they're entering a long-term relationship. Contracts don't mean anything because it's uncertain. You just need to feel that that person you can trust that person. So I think, that's a really key finding. To kind of put my academic hat on.
Yes.
There are trust is not one-dimensional. It's multi-dimension. And I identified 12 different dimensions of trust. I can go through them all if you want, but
I
that's
got 10
class.
fingers and 2 bonus
Yeah.
fingers.
That's
Go through, yeah.
That's another lesson. I charge extra for that one. But if something happens negatively on one of the trust factors, you have to repair it on the same factor, right? So let me give you an example of two. One component of trust is communication, that you communicate, tell people in a timely fashion, reliable information. That's kind of obvious. Another is capability, that you can do what you say and say what you do, right? They're not, those two things are quite different, right? So I might be good at communicating, but I'm not too good at doing brain surgery, right? So if I find when we're talking that there's a concern, and by the way, manifestation of trust is exhibited in behaviors. Again, the behavioral economics flavor. If I find, for example, that we don't communicate properly, then I can't fix that by saying, yeah, but I'm a great brain surgeon. I mean, I get the brain surgeon. You can't, because yes, that might increase my trust on your ability to be a brain surgeon, but it doesn't address the communication. However, if I say, I'm going to give you daily updates at the end of, I know that I'm not good at communicating. At the end of every day, I'm going to send you a summary message, or I'm going to have my email linked to yours, or I'm going to let you see my bank account, or whatever it is, a communication artifact that you build into the communications, then you can repair it that way. So understanding the 12 behavioral trust factors and how you could damage them, build them, repair them, grow them is really important.
It's fascinating. So much to take in here. And media, the stories, the video footage, and the telling of the stories. You were deeply involved. That you're so knowledgeable in that area. But here you are on a sort of raw, one-man operation. What do you call it? Grimy or low, amateur scenario, a podcast, a YouTube, if you will. Is this not the cult of the amateur? Aren't you shaming yourself by even signing up for such a thing?
Yes. I have to hang up now.
We got you for how long as we got you. What are your thoughts on professional, high-end, super fancy broadcast TV media versus one man in his basement while his kids are yelling media?
So it's a good question. I mean, as an academic, as someone who does research in the area, and my biggest frustration is not enough people are listening, right? They're not. I've got all these great insights, and not enough people are listening, and so kind of flattered when someone calls me and says, "Hey, I'm interested in what you're doing. Tell me what you're doing." And if we were having coffee or something somewhere, and it was just the two of us, I probably would be happy to do that. If it's in a medium that then can be rebroadcast, then I'm delighted, because just gives me the ability to share insights with anyone that wants to listen.
Interesting, but it's not the fanciest of cinematography, and there isn't a team of 30 people going to edit it. It's raw, it's uncut, it can go out right away. Aren't you afraid of what if you say the wrong thing and your glasses are not perfectly cleaned and your beard hairs are not perfectly aligned? Oy vey.
Well, you noticed. Oh.
You like media. You like sharing your story in all forums, maybe.
I don't think. I mean, first, I'm gonna. I've got some bad jokes I shouldn't say.
You could say it's internet. It's 2026.
I think that people, there is a mode of being professional, but for me, everything's in prototype. Everything's conceptual. Everything's early stage. I have a friend who says, if it's not got loose wires and duct tape, it's over engineered. It's
I love
I think
it.
the
I
only
love
the
it.
only concern that that I have is that people, not even the original people that get content, but people that get copies of the content can obviously edit it and make you look stupid. But I don't
Yes.
have an agenda that will. I think most of the people, excuse me, most people listening are just there to find out what's going on, interesting things, pursue.
You want to share your wisdom, even though it's not in the professional university setting as a professor. Does not this lower your integrity?
No, I don't see why it would. I mean, there's lots of times I do crazy things with people, share ideas. I mean, we run the high school SHAD program at York. I talk to students there about my experiences. I talk to senior executives in big companies. I talk to professors. I talk to Nobel Prize winners. I mean, like, I'm just, I mean, that's the
You
cool thing
like
about being a professor. I think the other thing is
yes.
I don't represent anybody.
You
I don't represent York University. I don't
that's right.
represent anybody. I represent me. My opinions are mine. And if you like them, great. And if you want to chat with me, great. And if you don't like them, okay.
That's right. As a professor and your roles in as like the Canadian Innovation Center, where you were for 22 years the chief innovation officer, if I got the facts correct, and the founder of, I'm reading off your LinkedIn on another computer, the founder of Disruptive Innovation Hub for part time for the last six some years. You have so much on your plate. How do you sleep at night? How do you wake up in the morning? I would have a hangover from the previous night's beverages. How do you do all the things you do?
So I think it's actually, well, ADD helps.
Oh yeah,
But,
100 points for
but, but,
neurodiversity. Yeah.
but I think it's, uh, I think the challenge for me is stopping, not starting. Like, I mean, my brain goes like 100 miles an hour all the time.
Me too. Me
And
too.
so I've been writing some articles in Substack. I try to write 2 a week. Most of them are pretty profound.
Yes.
And when I talk to colleagues, they go, "How can you? Not any one of them is brilliant, but how can you create so many different?" And I go, so many different ideas on these topics. And I go, that's just how my brain works. And I have a conversation with somebody, and I go off in 3 different directions. And I think that's the curiosity that got me to do my PhD, that makes me interesting academic, research academic. Won awards for my research and for my teaching. I also, came into academia late in life. Most people that do PhDs kind of go to school, they do a master's, and then they do a PhD. But I went back to university at 48 to do my PhD. And to be honest, I didn't know what I couldn't do. I didn't know that you weren't allowed to use TV shows as research for a paper. And I said, yes, it is a TV show, but I was in the studio while we were recording the show. And they go, oh, well, that changes it somewhat. and then a couple of people that I knew said, yes, and this is how you overcome the people's concern about TV shows being, used. And so I wrote that into my PhD, and I validated it against a bunch of things. Subsequently, people use my research to justify just watching Shark Tank on TV and getting data from that, because it is interesting and informative. It may not quite be as rigorous as mine, but it's pretty good. And if it gives us an insight that's useful, I think I think research is somewhat moving from the is it accurate to is it useful? I think that's becoming an interesting.
Fascinating.
I think we're seeing people say, I don't need 99.2% accuracy. 80% is good enough because if I'm going to make some decisions, let's go.
Fascinating. And on Substack, it was it 5 days ago, you had the article, the future, the blog post, the article of the future of education is better questions, not better answers. Interesting. This seems Platonic or something out of Greek philosophy. You are such a deep thinker about innovation. Have you always been? Has your brain always been on fire?
Um, I think so, but I think every time I've written something or done something, it's because I've encountered a situation. Like, Dragon's Den was a good example. I was at U of T. I was running the tech transfer office. We were doing all the startups. I ran the first incubator in a university in Canada. And I was trying to ask the question, why do some ventures succeed and others fail? That was a really interesting question. Because I'm going to make the assumption that if they were in my incubator, they had a good technology, right? That was not the issue, right? They were solving a problem and they had a good technology. So why did they fail? And that was the question I asked for my PhD. People gave me feedback, very fair feedback, which is there's so many factors that affect success or failure that at the very early stage you cannot predict, right? And it takes a long time to get that data. You'll never finish your PhD. So then they said, what happens if instead of asking that question, ask the question, what makes some people get investment and others not get investment? Because it's much shorter and the investment cycle is lower, and you kind of got experts in the room. And so that was the question I asked. And then I get this phone call from CBC saying, hey, we've got the opportunity to start a new show. And so it's like just being in the right place at the right time and stimulating the questions. And when I started working on the show, I had no idea to put it in my PhD, although I thought there might be possible to do something from it. But in the end, it kind of, the data from there was so rich, it dominated the PhD. So I think that when, it's that I think it's Frankel that talks about the gap between stimulus and response.
Yeah.
And so I find that when things happen to me, when I think about that gap between stimulus and response and why did it happen in that way? And so I think that's the challenge or the opportunity.
Yeah. And I'm just, I want to just bring in the quote by Viktor E. Frankl, which is between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That's the Viktor Frankl quote. And tying a bit back, going a bit deeper into the Dragon's Den, which to the American viewers or in other parts of the world they have the Shark Tank. What are your honest thoughts about that show? Is that entertainment? Is that educational? Is that a little bit too much truth? What are your thoughts about the rawness of the show?
So, I mean, I think there are subtle differences between, there are a few subtle differences between Dragon's Den UK
Yes.
and Dragon's Den Canada. There's a few more differences between Dragon's Den and Shark Tank. And so I would not try to, I did go and observe some of the Dragon's Den UK recording when I was there. And I also went to meet Mark Burnett, who got the franchise for Shark Tank, and actually partly contributed to the fact that Kevin and Robert are on Shark Tank because they were looking for sharks at the time. And I said, hey, we've got two good dragons in Canada, so maybe you should get them to come down. So there are some differences. If I take the Dragon's Den, it started out of the news and business side of CBC. So they were trying to make business interesting and entertaining, but it's not an entertainment show.
That's right.
What they found, so that really set the tone. And most of the people involved in the show had that kind of fact-based background. It wasn't, it wasn't whatever some of the other things. And remember, Mark Burnett is quite different, right? Mark Burnett is Survivor and a whole bunch of education, entertainment things.
Yeah.
So Dragon's Den has more similar. I think it's very interesting. I think, despite that, and inevitably they're driven a bit by ratings. I mean, we thought for the first 5 weeks of the show, we thought the ratings were so bad, we thought they were going to cancel it. And then the ratings suddenly started to pick up, and so we showed the first 3 episodes again because no one had watched them. So it was kind of funny. But I think it's a really interesting concept. It's real. I mean, none of the interactions are faked.
That's right. That's right.
The editors do a remarkable, and I can give you the data, but they do a remarkable job of capturing the core insights from an interaction into what they show on TV. So if you imagine, typically you're in the Denver half an hour, and your segment ends up being 5 minutes. And go back to my behavioral trust thing.
Yeah.
I coded all the behaviors that were in the den. And I found all the times they built trust, damaged trust, violated trust. Now, I should also mention that I was really looking for reasons people were rejected, not so much why they got investment. So learning from failure. Virtually every key trust damaging behavior that was ever displayed on the show ended up making it into the final edit. The editors, even though they didn't have my framework, were so attuned to what made the difference between moving forward and not, that they just captured that in the edits. So it's real. We've seen people on the show who keep pursuing ideas that they should stop pursuing, and that, they went through divorces and things because they kept going and going. They should have stopped, which is real and happens all the time, by the way. So I think that it's really interesting. I'm disappointed that we haven't been able to use it a bit more educationally.
Why? Oh, can we open that up? That it should be just shown in high schools and universities?
So it was the 20th anniversary about, I don't know, 3 months ago, and I was there and I was talking to them, and I'm kind of pursuing that idea about whether we could do something. I do think there's massive insights that we could learn from failure. And in fact, I now have, and actually I'm going to be launching one in about 2 weeks' time. I have some AI tools that replicate the decision process in Dragon's Den. So one of my graduate students developed a machine learning version it's called xpitch.com. And if you're pitching for investment, it's a really good way to find flaws in your pitch so that you can fix them. Again, that's the professor diagnostic. So here's opportunities for improvement. And that works really well. And that's based on getting investment. But the question that was before that was, is it a good idea? Will anyone ever use this? Which may lead to investment, may not. If it's not a good idea, no one ever use it, you'll never get investment. So we have another tool called critical factor assessment. And so we're launching an updated version of that shortly, which people will be able to use at any point in their business. I'm going to say, because I'm an engineer, that it's better for technology businesses than, a new food business or whatever. If someone in the food industry wants to adapt it for, because I think there's some expertise that you need in that I don't really have. So you could adapt it for these others. The framework would work, but it probably needs better training. So there's definite ways to take the lessons learned and share them. And, I think that's, one of your earlier comments was, how do you decide what to do and what not to do? Well, it's on my list of things I'd love to do, which is an educational guide to the den. But that's
Fascinating.
another project. Yeah.
Fascinating. And so you're working with different graduate students and exploring projects. You're also have, could we say, one foot in innovation and exploring all sorts of new AI tools and processes. Do people come up to you randomly ever and be like, I'm the founder of this company, or I have this technology I worked on. Please, professors, doctor, save me. Oh, blah, blah, blah. That must happen like every week, every day.
Every day.
What do you
Yeah,
say?
it
How
does.
do you?
It does every day. Well, so
Yeah,
so first of all, in general, unless they're a student of mine or affiliated with some, I say go away, um,
that's
in a nice
okay.
way.
We have to
But
partition, have to separate.
but it's I got so frustrated about it about 3 weeks ago that that's why I relaunched this tool. So we have a tool we launched it about a year ago called the Critical Factor Assessment. It was pretty good, but thought it could be a bit better. So over the last 10 days, improved it. And that's the one we're going to launch. So my simple answer is going to be use the assessment and it'll tell you. It will give you the same rigor and approach and methodology, and from my PhD, that will help you understand whether you have a business or not. It will not tell you whether it's investable or not, but it will tell you that. If you want the investment one, you can use XPitch.
Fascinating, fascinating. And you are, could we say that your approach to academia is is representing higher education, universities and colleges as a place of, as you said before, this is the time to innovate. This is the place to innovate. Don't wait till you're working at some big company and you're stuck in a cog in a machine. Universities and academic institutions, these are the places of research and these are the places of development. That's tis the season. You're an advocate for this. That academia is amazing opportunity. Is that's the place, not
one Hundred
a
percent.
big company. Why? Why are big companies not innovating?
Why are big companies not innovating? That's a very different question. I think that's a different podcast, Mike. But if
We
I
could
was,
we
so
could
we're
have
doing a lot of
another
work in this space,
episode.
right?
We'll have a,
I do a lot of work in this space, and we work with a lot of big companies, and I run programs at some of Canada's biggest companies and global companies to try and address that. Um, Probably won't surprise you that I'm going to tell you the answer is behavioral economics. Um,
mm,
how people make decisions under risk, how people inside big organizations decide which projects to pursue and which not, how people um, collaborate, how they work together. It's the ability to, I mean, in big companies they tend to want much higher degrees of certainty. I mean, I'm amazed, and I don't know which of the programs I'm involved in I should even mention, but I'm amazed how often in big companies they people think that to make the decision to move forward they need 90% of the data.
mm.
And I'm going, 50% is good enough for me. Just make 50%. And by the way,
Yes.
it's not go no go, it's go to the next step. So I view innovation as a series of risk reduction experiments, which will get you ultimately in the direction you want. And so what do you do with experiments? Well, you expect them to fail. You try and spend as little much as possible, and you try and get indicators very early on in the process so that you know you're going in the right direction.
Fascinating. Okay, this is so much food for thought. I'm gonna have to watch this 3 or 4 times just to get wrap my head around it. And there's so much left to unpack. We may, if you wish, we may have to set up a second episode if you have the bandwidth, perhaps in a few weeks or a month from now, if you wish.
Sure.
And in the last minute we have you, what is your message to the future young entrepreneurs of the earth?
Um, well, I think if you look at my LinkedIn profile, you'll see it on there,
I'm going right now.
which
I'm
is
going right now.
find something you're passionate about and go for it. It's like achieve your potential. Don't let people get in your way. I don't mean in a nasty way. Overcome obstructions, recognize you're going to have setbacks, learn from every experience, be kind, pay it forward. I think there's so many insights about how we can model the world we want to live in that we should do that.
Fascinating. And we will hold over here. We will pause here on this beautiful high note. Thank you, Professor Dr. Andrew Maxwell, for joining us on this beautiful episode. A pleasure. We'll have you back. Take care.
Thank you, Mike.